School is brought to you by BASF and Pride Seeds.
I'm Lindsay Smith with RealAgriculture.com. I'm joined today by Peter Johnson. Peter, there is still corn out in the field. We've got standing corn. It's turning black. What do we do?
Yeah, so absolutely, and a lot of producers called me up when this first started to happen and said, oh my gosh, we got to go harvest that corn, we're in big trouble. It's actually not a big deal at all. It happens almost every year when we leave corn out. So we have here some cobs, and right away you can start to see this black coloration that's on the husks, right? And so this is what we call a secondary saprophyte. It feeds on dead tissue, and when we open these cobs up, it's kind of like, wow, look at the amount of black there, and we can actually see a bunch of black starting to come on that cob right there. So we're really pretty concerned in terms of what's going on with the corn kernels. And on that one you can see lots of black just starting to form all the way around. And so that's bad news scenario, right? When we take that cob and we break it open, wow, ugly. So all of a sudden we got all sorts of, what is it? Is it a toxin? Is my corn junk? Do I need to phone Agricor? And in actual fact, it's Cladiosporium. I thought it was Alternaria, but Greg Stewart, Albert Tenuta, I showed this to them, they sent it to the lab, it came back as Cladiosporium. You say, well, what's the difference? And the answer is there's not a big difference. They're both secondary saprophytes. In wheat, it's almost always Alternaria. Apparently in corn, it's almost always Cladiosporium. But it's a mold, and it's actually growing on the cob inside, and it's putting its mycelium out. But if you take that corn kernel that looks so awful, and I actually take my finger and I rub that off, well, all of the black pretty well comes off of that kernel because it's not inside the kernel. And I end up with a kernel that is actually quite fine, no problem whatsoever. So it's really intriguing. Even the good cobs, so you'd look at this cob and you'd say, well, that's a cob from the same field, it's fine. Oftentimes when you open it up, you can see that even on the good cobs, there's a little bit of that Cladiosporium starting to form. The upside is that it contains no toxins. We sent it away for analysis. The toxins all came back essentially at 0 or at 3 parts per billion, with things like vomitoxin, which are non-existent. I mean, it really says that there's no problem because you have to get up into that 2 parts per million range. No toxins. What it does mean is come harvest, oh, this spring when Johnson goes to combine his corn, that poor old white combine is going to turn totally black, because in the combine process it's all going to come off and it's just going to be one dusty mess. You want me to eat it? I'll eat it on camera.
Don't.
I will,
Yeah.
if you want me to eat it.
You're
just,
like the...
and
You're
just
like
to prove this,
No.
I can eat this on film.
No.
Yeah. So,
It'll probably taste disgusting.
you want me to eat it on film? I will.
Okay, do it. How delicious is it?
Tastes like corn. By the way, the one thing I did not say is that this corn has dried out incredibly. This stuff was 33% from biting that kernel. Right now we're about 22. It'll be 19 shortly, and by the time I combine it in April or May, it will be down to 14% moisture, no drying charges.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Peter.